Around 1200 BCE, a significant upheaval shook human civilization. Within just one generation, the most advanced societies of the time faced an existential crisis, collapsed, marking a pivotal moment akin to the fall of the Roman Empire and signifying the end of the Bronze Age. Despite various theories, the exact reason for this catastrophic events remains elusive. The dawn of Bronze Age in Western Asia marked the end of an era dominated by oppressive city-states governed by authoritarian priests. This new age brought an unpredicted possibilities, rapid advances in technology, new religions, and expansive empires seemingly emerging overnight. An agricultural innovation led to the abundant food supplies, fueling the growth of cosmopolitan cities engaged in bustling international trade, a stark departure from the isolated city-states of the past. By the late Bronze Age, key players such as Egypt, Cyprus, and Mycenaeans, the Hittite Empire, Assyria, and Babylonia dominated the geopolitical landscape. Yet around 1200 BCE, each of these mighty states encountered a swift decline and existential crisis within a single generation. Here's what we do know. Around the early 12th century, the king of Ugarit, a city within the Hittite Empire, corresponded urgently with the king of Cyprus. "My father, enemy ships have arrived, setting fire to our cities and causing great harm. Don't you know that all my infantry and chariots are stationed in Kate, and all my ships in Luca? With them away, our land is defenseless. Please be aware, 7 enemy ships have already harmed us. If more come, send me more immediately." Despite the Hittites' promises of reinforcements, it was too late. Ugarit's final known message laments, "When your messenger came, our army was defeated, our city sacked, our food stores burned, vineyards destroyed, our city is lost. Let it be known." Meanwhile, the king of Cyprus, grappling with his own challenges, faced attacks on his land. Coastal cities suffered extensive destruction, while inland settlements were abandoned. Wealthy inhabitants buried their riches, hoping to return once the turmoil subsided, but none did. In Greece, the situation differed markedly. Over the preceding century, the Mycenaeans had endured internal strife. Evidence of widespread destruction is abundant. Cities show signs of extensive fires, alongside arrowheads and weapons suggesting fierce battles that ended with the defenders' defeat. In other places, smaller fire confined to palace areas indicates popular uprisings that toppled local rulers in numerous city-states. Elsewhere, signs point to abandonment due to the famine or natural disasters, or perhaps both. While the overall picture remains somewhat unclear, it is evident that Greece was engulfed in turmoil. Anatolia, the heartland of Hittites, faced ever graver challenges. Archaeological evidence indicates that nearly every major city along the Anatolian coast suffered significant destruction during this period. Notably, Troy was among the cities laid to waste. Recent excavations at Troy had unearthed arrowheads embedded in the city's walls and traces of fire. Inland, the situation grows more perplexing. The Hittite capital, previously safeguarded by the Ungarites military, was largely abandoned and later besieged and razed, echoing the fate of other urban centers. For centuries, this abrupt collapse across the region puzzled historians. They knew it occurred but struggled to comprehend how or why. However, a breakthrough in the later part of 19th century came from Egyptian archaeological findings, which provided a compelling explanation for this mysterious downfall. An inscription discovered at Medinet Habu in an Egyptian temple, attributed to Pharaoh Ramesses III, recounted multiple waves of foreign invaders arriving on Egypt's shores over 3 decades. The inscription states, The foreign countries made a conspiracy in their islands. All at once the lands were removed and scattered in the fray. No land could stand before their arms. They were coming forward toward Egypt, where the flame was prepared before them. They laid their hands on the land as far as the circuit of the earth, their hearts confident and trusting. Our plans will succeed. The Egyptians speculated on the identity of these invaders but lacked certainty. Historians commonly refer to them as the Sea Peoples. It is now believed that the Sea People were a loose coalition originating from various Mediterranean regions, possibly including Sicily, Sardinia, Crete, and the Aegean coast, and beyond. They displayed diverse attire. Some wore feathered headdresses or horned helmets, while others sport simple leather caps. Some dressed in kilts, others in tunics. Their armament ranged from full-body armor to shirtlessness. Despite this diversity, their common motivation was migration. They arrived with their families and belongings, using both boats and wagons. The question of what spurred their migration is one we'll explore later. By the time the Sea People reached Egypt, nearly every other Bronze Age civilization had fallen. The Mycenaeans in Greece, the Hittites in Anatolia, Canaan in Levant, and Cyprus all had vanished. Some inland states were less affected by the invasions, but they too suffered from the collapse of their neighbors, and their decline was inevitable. When the Sea People embarked on their migration, they likely did not foresee its overwhelmness. Bronze Age warfare, chariots played a pivotal role in Bronze Age military strategies across Western Asia, initially used for transport during the early Bronze Age. Chariots became integral to the military tactics of every major state in the region by the imminent Bronze Age. Typically, a chariot consisted of two-horse team with two individuals, one driver and one archer. The horses and driver were trained for speed and maneuverability, capable of moving twice as fast as a human running at full speed. The archer used a composite bow, smaller and lighter than conventional bows, yet offering superior accuracy, range, and firepower, capable of piercing up to 3 inches of metal. An advanced technological advancement for its time. This innovation provided chariot teams with a decisive advantage in speed, range, and firepower, akin to how the HMS Dreadnought revolutionized naval warfare. Upon its launch in 1906, like the Dreadnought, Bronze Age chariots could engage enemies from a distance while evading closer threats. They were formidable, capable of defeating much larger armies. However, they came at a high cost. Horses needed specialized breeding and training, and the handcrafted equipment cost twice as much as the horse themselves. Losing a single chariot was disastrous, so they relied on an inexpensive spearmen and archers and defensive formation to protect and support them during battles. During the late Bronze Age, and competition in chariot technology was underway in the region until the Sea People arrived. Unlike the chariot-centric civilization of Western Asia, the Sea People primarily fought on foot, instead of forming defensive lines with spearmen and archers to protect chariots. They employed aggressive tactics with longswords and javelins, often referred to as runners. They were highly mobile and unpredictable compared to the rigid formation of traditional spearmen. This mobility made them adept at neutralizing chariots. While chariots relied on their speed against individual foot soldiers, they struggled against the Sea People, coordinations, and attacks from multiple directions. The structured defenses of spearmen and archers, designed for conventional warfare, proved ineffective against the Sea People dynamic tactics. In response to these new challenges, defensive formation expanded significantly. By the end of this period, the armies facing the Sea People had grown tenfold. As mentioned earlier, Egypt stood virtually alone toward the end, and nearly all its neighbors falling to the Sea People. The inscription from Medinet Habu vividly portrays the final battle at the mouth of the Nile, emphasizing the vast Egyptian army, rows of spearmen, archers, and Pharaoh Ramesses III himself leading front amidst fallen foes. Although chariots were prominently displayed, they played a minor role in the battle. Clearly, the primary combatants were the spearmen and archers. Historical records describe how the Egyptians fortified the mouth of the Nile with a fleet of ships carrying archers. Every Egyptian spearman was positioned and prepared for the Sea People's landing. The Medinet Habu inscription recounts the outcome: captured Sea People being led away, and scenes of widespread devastation. Though clearly propagandistic, this is little reason to doubt its accuracy. Despite earlier successes, the Sea People were decisively defeated in Egypt. Yet, even in victory, Egypt suffered greatly. Following this conflict, Egypt's decline as a major power began, a decline that persisted for over 1,000 years. The significant disruption caused by the collapse of international trade in Egypt suggests that the Sea People only may not tell the entire story. Scholars have been investigating this mystery for decades, and the evidence is compelling. Bronze Age civilizations were critically dependent on bronze. Without a reliable supply, their advanced technology suffered. Bronze, composed of 9 parts copper and 1 part tin, was indispensable. While copper was relatively abundant, it was challenging to mine. Despite local efforts, Cyprus emerged as a primary supplier, benefiting greatly from its rich copper deposits, which fueled prosperity through extensive international trade. Tin, essential for bronze production, presented a distinct challenge due to its secrecy and uneven global distribution. The Hittites controlled a small mine in Anatolia, insufficient to meet regional demands. The nearest major source lay over 3,000 kilometers away in Afghanistan. Transporting tin from Afghanistan to Cyprus was both costly and hazardous. Italy and Spain possessed smaller mines, inadequate for that widespread use. It wasn't until discovery of a large tin deposit in Cornwall, Britain, that another significant source was found. Despite the risk involved, traders undertook these lengthy voyages, highlighting the critical importance of tin to Bronze Age economies. Any distribution in this supply chain, such as raids by the Sea People, hampered bronze production, weakening regional powers. This triggered a vicious cycle of reduced trade and heightened vulnerability to further attacks, ultimately contributing to the collapse of Bronze Age civilizations. However, seismic events may have also played a role. Western Asia experienced significant earthquakes during this period, potentially devastating local economies and contributing to the abandonment of cities. Evidence suggests earthquakes affected regions like Greece, Anatolia, the Levant, and Cyprus, with Greece suffering particularly severe consequences. Taking all these factors into account, it's plausible that a combination of economic distributions, seismic activity, and migration culminated in the arrival of Sea People. The exact reasons behind their migration remains debated, but their impact on Bronze Age civilizations was profound and multifaceted. Initially dismissed as a hypothesis, recent evidence has now sustained the theory of an environmental crisis during this era. Northern Europe indeed faced challenges that triggered a ripple effect, particularly impacting the eastern Mediterranean. Ancient pollen samples from northern Syria indicates a prolonged dry event lasting 300 years, beginning just before the Bronze Age collapse. Samples from Cyprus reveal even harsher conditions, where environmental challenges render basic agricultural practices unsustainable, a potentially catastrophic scenario explaining why some cities were abandoned before the Sea People arrived. Similar environmental shifts are documented in the Levant, Anatolia, and Greece. Evidence from Greece suggests planned adaptation over centuries to survive increasingly arid conditions. Correspondence from Ugarit supports these findings, documenting widespread crop failures during invasions across the Hittite Empire. One urgent plea from the Hittite king to the king of Ugarit begged for grain, stating it is a matter of life and death. Another poignant letter from Mr during later invasions described famine, saying, "There is famine in our house. We will all die of hunger. If you do not arrive quickly, we ourselves will perish. You will not see a living soul from our land." As scholars believe, Bronze Age civilizations may have been in crisis even before the Sea People incursions, according to the prevailing system collapse theory. While the Sea People posed a significant threat, civilizations were already weakened by climate-induced famines that depopulated critical cities. This depopulation in turn led to internal stability, sparking local uprisings that toppled ruling elites, an evident phenomenon in Greece during this period. These factors, compounded by Sea People's invasions, precipitated a collapse in the international trade network, exacerbating the crisis. Moreover, frequent earthquakes further compounded the challenges faced by the Bronze Age societies in Western Asia.